question that I ask any band that I ever interview is how's everything going, not just in your music life, but also in your personal life as well?
In terms of what I'm willing to share.
Yeah, you can share whatever you want.
Yeah. No, things are well. I'm in Michigan right now at the moment, visiting my in-laws. So it's been a fun weekend of fall stuff. And I guess it's part of my personal life, but also my musician life. I was in the studio another weekend ago, last weekend, recording drums for another full-length album from a project I play in called Orb. So there's another full-length kind of haunted supernatural rock and roll album that I have in the wings that I'm working on. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, very cool. Is it cold up in Michigan yet, or?
No, no, it's very warm. So
Oh, that's a plus. Done and the release date is approaching.
yeah, so the album is called Black Sights in Lower Chamber by my band that I play in Wild Beyond, and it feels great. It was something that started in February or early January of 2025, so almost a year ago. And we were in the process of essentially recording for demo purposes a full
Hmm.
worth of music because we do have a full length that we hope to record very soon. But in the process of doing that, there were a couple of songs that we felt sounded good enough to share with people, and we had kind of busted them out in the live setting as well. So, as a way to kind of bridge the chasm from our first album to the next full length album, it seemed like a fun little side quest to put out this EP, Black Sights and Lower Chamber. So, yeah, it feels good. You know, it was a very punk rock endeavor. A lot of it was recorded in either our practice room or in my own home studio. And
Hmm.
for something that was done very low budget and very bare bones, we feel like it sounds like us as a band, and it kind of
Hmm.
captures the Wild Beyond experience. So we are stoked.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that you mentioned that it was kind of like recording like personal studios instead of like professionally recorded. Was that intentional?
Sort of.
A
Yeah,
happy accident?
yeah, it was a happy accident. Not that we mean to cut corners. Like we have a full length worth of music kind of ready to go, or at least in the pre-production process. So
Hmm.
we had kind of went the extra step. And for the first time that I've ever done, we went about recording the whole full length just for demo purposes. And so it was like, all right, so we have a full length worth of music that's already recorded, that's never going to see the light of day, so to speak. But
Yeah.
again, for those songs, we kind of felt were cohesive enough to share to the public and that we felt excited enough. And it's also kind of good just to let people know that as a band, you're still out there
Right.
picking, so to speak. Um, and yeah, I think across the board, we kind of come from a DIY background, and we always appreciate the punk rock ethos, especially with black metal, like the music that we play. So, as much as we can do ourselves, we try to do ourselves, and I think that we we want to sound on record the way you would sound, or the way it would appear to you if you were in the room with us, whether it's on a stage or in our practice space. So we're pretty
Hmm.
pleased because it's definitely seems like an accurate representation of who we are, and also on a personal level, like I was the one a lot of the times hitting record and kind of manning the controls and making sure everything sounded good enough to at least send off to a mixer that knew what they were doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was planned and it was not planned, but we're happy the way it turned out.
Well, I think that's good. I think it's awesome that you want to represent the band in like a real way, like, instead of having it all perfect, because it's nice to have that. I listened to the album, I think it was like 2 or 3 nights ago, and I'm like, I really enjoyed it because it felt real. Like there's just that real sense behind it.
Yeah, and I've seen your channel, like I had mentioned before. I've seen interviews like Halloween and 6 Feet Under. Like, do you listen to a lot of black metal, or is that like where does how much into your daily interviewing?
Um, I've been interviewing for 2 plus years, and I definitely can say my music taste has definitely changed. Like I get into doom metal, stoner metal, black metal, all the metals now. Like my music taste has changed a lot. So
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. I think with us, it's like it's all rock and roll, it's all heavy metal, and it's all underground music. Some of it just has a different sonic profile, but
exactly.
with Wild Beyond too, it's a fun band for us to play in because we have a lot of commonalities, and we also have like different outlying influences, and we kind of put our DNA within like the black metal aesthetic. But heavy metal is also like kind of a living mausoleum, so
Yes.
there's lots of influences represented there, and I think we just want to sound like ourselves and not just sound like yeah, we want to make our own sound in the grand scheme of things.
For sure. And I have to ask, have you done like this kind of recording for a band before, or was it like the first time?
I've been doing it a bit more. So I play in a few bands. My other band that I play in, Morgul Blade, we released an album in 2024 called Heavy Metal Wraiths. And
Hmm.
our drummer at the time was also our producer. But as it turned out, because he was also playing drums and some guitars, I ended up doing a lot of the recording, just like I guess audio engineering, if you want to be technical about it. I was
Hmm.
engineering the recording process. That's a fancy way of saying hitting record on the software. Um, also being the one that was listening, monitoring, and if there was a spot that needed to be edited or whatever, like being able to man the control. So um, I do have some experience. It's grown a bit increasingly over the years because I do enjoy like the do-it-yourself ethos. Like the more we can do on our own, then
Hmm.
that kind of avails resources that we can focus on for other things, whether it's hitting the road or finding a good mixer or album artwork or merch designs, whatever. Um, and yeah, so with that, there was some things, but I think with this new album, it's definitely the most intensive I've ever done up to this point to put on a record where it was recorded
Hmm.
in my office or in our recording studio, and we essentially recorded drums with Ryan Mulvanetti in the basement of Doug, who plays in some bands you might know, like Alter and Punisher and Ecstatic Vision. So we had the drums separately recorded because drums are a whole other realm of recording proficiency. There's a lot of toms and cymbals and stuff you need to get mic'd up to sound good.
Hmm.
But yeah, guitars, bass, vocals, keyboards, that was all done within my own realm, whether it was in a recording studio or in the home office. So it was definitely a step up uh, for the production cycle.
Yeah. Do you feel like you handle that challenge well?
I mean, you heard the album. What do you think?
I think so. But do
All
you
right.
think, like, are you happy with how it turned out?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, technology has come a long way for sure. I was in the studio with another person, Steve Roach in Philadelphia. He plays in a band called Seisha, and he has a studio called Permanent Hearing Damage. And we've done some records with him. As a matter of fact, we did the first Wild Beyond LP with Steve, but he was just saying like real, as in like real tape that costs like $400 a reel now. So
Oh,
if you
wow.
just think about the way things used to be before things were as accessible for do it yourself like home recording stuff,
Hmm.
um, there were a lot of costs. So I think now, of course, we want to sound raw and we still want to sound analog, um, but the tables have turned in a cool way that you can do a lot more on your own without having to spend a huge amount of money for kind of bare bones home recording stuff without cheating. Or uh, all the keyboards were analog. Those were all 80s and 90s Yamahas and Casio tones on the album. So yeah, we definitely like wanted to sound like a real band and want to also have analog instruments and tones, and we went about doing that in the home studio sense.
Yeah, it sounded really great. So I think you did a great job on that. So congrats on that.
Thank
So I'm curious, what sort of headspace or like mood were you in during the creation of this album?
That's a great question. What kind of headspace were we in? So I think it's worth noting the difference between our first recording and this one because with our first LP, self-titled, that came out in 2023, uh,
Mm-hmm.
we had never played a show before. We kind of had a fire lit under our ass, and we wanted to get an album out, and we also wanted to put an album out before we even like worried about playing a show. So we were definitely eager to record something. So all the songs were recorded and rehearsed, I should say, sort of well enough to the fact that we could be like, okay, Evan's our drummer. He knows the songs well enough to kind of play along to.
Mm-hmm.
And he had Eddie, our vocalist and frontman, had gone it. Most of the songs were his compositions. I contributed a few, but they were again sort of just like rehearsed enough just to get it recorded for drums. And so with this new album, we have since put out an album. We kind of know what our sound is now. We've played shows. We've had time to practice and perform several of these songs live and kind of live in them a bit more. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's just having that headspace of preparedness and really like having that group mind where we've come together to be a bit more cohesive makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
If that answers the question.
Yes. So when you guys were all recording, was it like separately, like sending like parts of a song back and forth, or were you all together
A
during
little bit of
recording?
both. It was a little bit of both for sure. So like we were all in the basement for Evan doing the drum tracks for like I guess moral support or if you needed like conducting or whatever. Evan,
Yeah.
of course, he's a monster of a drummer, so he's probably the most prepared one out of all of us. So that was pretty smooth, but we were there just to be there, for all of us in the same room. And then for the other instruments, it would be usually like me and Ed, the guitarist and vocalists, either in my home studio office or in our recording space.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, I would capture his guitar takes or vocal takes. But then other aspects of it, like the bass and keyboards that I play, those were things that I was able to do on my own just to
Mm-hmm.
save time and energy. So it was a little bit of both. And I think it's also important when you're recording by yourself or with one other person in a small room, whether it's a studio or a practice space or a home office that's been converted into a recording studio,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't quite have that same magic of like when you're on stage. But that's what you want to capture, right? You want to capture that kind of energy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's also important that we were able to kind of get our reps in enough to be able to be comfortable even though it's not an ideal situation, like being in a recording studio or being in a recording office or whatever,
Right.
we've done it enough that we felt confident that we could still kind of bring that same energy as if we were on stage in an isolated environment.
Mm-hmm. And you played a few instruments on this album as well, correct?
Yeah, I did bass. I did all the keyboards and I play a couple of guitars like on Visions Before the Seizure. Those are my guitars in the beginning. And I feel like there's some other spot in the album where I did guitars too. So yeah, yes.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you're like a whole band just by yourself, almost, it sounds like.
Can't rely on anybody else. You got to do it all yourself.
So I did want to ask about the song behind, like the inspiration behind the song Dream State Abductions. It's very different. It was very like Zen, like kind of like a welcome to the album. So I really like enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm happy to say, I'm gonna pat myself on the shoulder for that one. That was one of my compositions on keyboards. Um, I think across the board with our black metal commonalities and bands that we all enjoy, we all have whether it's like Immortal or Emperor or At the Gates. There's a lot to mention, but we kind of come from the lineage of bands that have extreme music that usually open their albums with some spooky kind of occult sounding instrumentals. So
Hmm.
that was what we were thinking of when we decided to do that song. And actually, that technically that was like one of the earliest songs that we wrote because um Yeah, I think even from our first show that we ever played, that was in June of 2023 at
Mm-hmm.
Titus Bar, rest in peace. We had the song ready to go, so it was recorded like 2 years ago, and we had basically been using it as an introduction for live shows. But for the extent of or for the purposes of a recording a new album, it seemed like a really
Mm-hmm.
good way to put that song into like the official records as something that had been played forth in the live capacity before. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, influence wise, we just wanted to make something that sounded cool and haunted. Again, it came from a live experience. So if you see a Wild Beyond show, there's a good chance that it'll start with that playing over the sound system just to kind
Mm-hmm.
of mood. And that seemed like a really appropriate way to start the album as well. And same thing, I recorded the keyboards to it. It was all recorded on analog, like Casio tone and Yamaha
Mm-hmm.
keyboards from the 80s and 90s. So it was fun to play, and it kind of captures the essence that we were going for.
For sure. Like I said, I really liked it because it was kind of like different. I don't know. To me, it was like calm and peaceful, but maybe
Yeah.
that says a lot about my personality. But I'm like, it was really nice to like have that and then get into like the rest of the song. So
You you have to have like the light with the storm, right? You know,
yes.
storm, but that's why it's cool when you have like those moments of sunlight that peek through the storm clouds. And also on our first album, we ended with a composition that I'm very proud of called Exit Wounds. That's all analog keyboards with a little bit of acoustic guitars and bass that we're
Hmm.
blast. And we'll usually play that to end our set over the PA system, like it ends on our album. So yeah, we're all about this cool, like spooky, haunted sounding intros and outros because it just adds a layer of personality, and then it also
Hmm.
elevates the live show too.
Yeah, for sure. And I also did want to talk about there's a cover song on this EP as well. Why did you choose that song, and can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the fun things about this band was like I've known Ed through his other bands like Infernal Stronghold and Daiva, and same thing with Evan. Like I've known him; he's been in the game for a long time. Like they've both been playing music for like 20 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we're a bunch of old dogs, and we kind of know like what we want to do, but we had never played in bands together before with Wall Beyond. So
Hmm.
since joining this band and starting from the ground up, we've kind of like learned where our commonalities are with influences. So like one of the things out of the gate was that we all love Metallica, Sepultura, Mayhem, Immortal, and DIMMU BORGIR. More so Ed and Evan than me, but I quickly became a fan of DIMMU BORGIR for them as well. And so
Hmm.
Evan and Eddie would often like jam DIMMU BORGIR songs, and Evan even went as far as saying like, "Yo, I want the drums on this album, specifically I think the kick drums, to sound like the tone on Enthroned Darkness Triumphant by DIMMU BORGIR." And
Hmm.
I was like, dude, we should just like, or it might have been, I'm not taking credit for it. I forget who it was, but eventually we came to the like kind of group consensus that if we were going to like kind of base our drum tone off that album, since Evan and Eddie were already like big fans and like kind of knew the songs off the back of their hands, like one
Hmm.
of those songs too. So we decided to cover Spellbound by the Devil, which is a banger song off Enthroned Darkness Triumphant. And it's also is a fun song to bust out because like we're a trio. DIMMU BORGIR is a six piece. So uh,
Hmm.
there was some wearing of extra hats on our part. But we've even gone as far as playing that song live, where I'm playing like the keyboard parts on bass essentially with pedals and stuff.
Oh.
Um, so that's been cool. But yeah, that was a really fun song to play, and it definitely kind of captures the vibe. I think on this album, we're a lot more melodic sounding, and it definitely speaks to more 90s melodic black metal that's still very fast and very intense, like with the instrumentations. But it's a cohesive effort, and it from my own experience, like playing keyboards on that, like busting out all the different analog keyboards and like trying to get the tone right because the keyboardist on those early like '90s DIMMU Borgir albums, the Top Hat Man, like
Hmm.
he kills it. He plays some really tight keyboard parts. So I had to step my game up a little bit, and it was a fun challenge.
Yeah, well, the 90s are the vibe. Like, I might be a little biased, but I love the 90s. I think the 90s are part of like some of the best. So,
Yeah, grew up in the '90s, so I know.
so this is just kind of a fun question, but describe this album in 3 words that make someone instantly want to go and listen to it.
3 words, I would say wild, fucking beyond.
I like that. So, what song would you recommend someone to listen to for the first time who's never heard any songs by the band?
I would say my personal favorite would be Visions Before the Seizure, which is sort of the third song. If you, it's basically 3 songs, not counting covers and instrumentals. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like the third act of the album of the EP, the final battle at the end of the triptych. And I think it's the most ambitious song. Like it starts off with an acoustic intro with keyboards. Definitely kind of has that like epic immortal or emperor 90s style black metal intro, and then it kind of kicks into kick-ass rock and roll. Got a lot of like thrashy guitars and upbeat drums, and yeah, it's a banger song. It's really fun to play live. I'm proud of it because I was able to contribute to like the acoustic intro and the keyboard parts, but it also was a very collaborative piece too. This album in particular and all of our stuff moving forward, it's a lot more of us like working as a unit together to come to the end goal. Whereas our first album, we had never gigged together before we put it out or played live or recorded, I should say. The songs were kind of like written in a vacuum. Like Eddie kind of had them, and we just had them ready to record. And maybe I wrote a few songs too. But this time, these are songs that we've like practiced live in the studio. We've practiced in rehearsal. We've taken them out on shows and practiced with them in front of audiences. So we've had a lot more time to like live in the songs and tweak them as well with our own little, you know, creative inputs here and there. So I think Visions Before the Seizure for its grandiosity and for its cohesion.
Okay. Do you feel like that song also kind of like embodies who the band is?
At this point, I mean, while beyond, we try to attack from all angles. Like this EP, I think, has a very cohesive vibe for 3 songs. It's kind of all melodic, kind of moodier, mid pace, but still very fast. But in terms of like the new songs that we have, like we have another I'm sorry, we have another LP worth of music that we're recording in this first or second week of December now. So
Ooh.
that's a whole other vibe where it gets a lot faster, more aggressive, but still has those. So I think that this band, it's very much an obelisk to our various influences within the black metal spire of things. And
Hmm.
though we have a lot of influences, we want to take the best of those, but we don't want to sound like any band in particular. We want to sound like us. So for now, yeah, but it's also a style of music that's subject to change in the future.
Well, that's awesome. I do have one last question here for you. Is there any final words you'd like to give to fans who have followed you from the beginning? Anyone who, I guess, are fans of other bands, or anyone just interested in listening for the first time?
Yeah, thank you. If you've been listening from the beginning, or if this is a band that interests you and you want to listen more, thank you very much. We've all been playing music for a long time, and it's the thing that gives us a reason to wake up in the morning. And having music that we feel proud of, I think, speak for myself at least, it helps me sleep better at night knowing that I'm not wasting my time on this earth with this evil, heavy, fucked up rock and roll. So thanks a lot. Enjoy it, and there's more to come.
And for anyone who wants to take a listen to it, I'll leave all the links below. So it makes it really easy to get there. It releases on the 17th of October. I've listened to this EP a few times, I must add, so I think you'll definitely enjoy it. So I want to again thank you for taking your time for doing this interview with me.
Thanks a lot. Rock and roll.
queen of your heart.